two of the big things that we've seen in the last couple of months have been the Western North Carolina floods, and we have seen the fires out in Los Angeles. And so
Right.
these are huge insurance events. Really quickly, what does an insurance policy generally cover these things, or are the extra things that need to be invoked in the purchasing of a property for these homes to be covered?
Well, and you're right. The fact that they are both disasters, but that's really the only thing they have in common as far as insurance is concerned.
Mm,
Fire has always been covered by even the very basic policies way back when they first began were always fire policies. So that's not going to be an issue. Um, the North Carolina situation, most people wouldn't have a flood policy, and flood is specifically excluded from almost all home policies from all companies across the spectrum.
mm.
So, so a flood is not going to be covered. So unless they bought flood insurance, which why would you? Especially when you're up, a lot of these people were literally like in mountains areas even,
Right.
so you wouldn't have thought to do that. I get that. So that's why the government is so important in a situation like that because they will kind of step in then with some kind of federal relief. Now here's the problem. The problem is you're not going to get any kind of federal relief that you're going to really need enough to really recover, I don't think. They just don't pay that. Even if you had a flood policy, a lot of people aren't aware of this. Even if you had a flood policy, the most that most companies will pay is 250,000. So if you had $1 million mansion on wherever, that's most you're gonna expect, even if you had the policy.
Hmm.
And I'm guessing the federal money wouldn't be even that much. I'm guessing, but I don't know.
Right.
I know they're still having a lot of trouble. I've heard just lately that they're still haven't even heard from anybody in some cases. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, but when I see the LA wildfires, I think of the term "act of God" versus somebody dropped a cigarette while they were sitting there and they were watching
right,
TV and they fell asleep and they dropped a cigarette. Is there a
right.
difference between the different types of fire, or is it just fire? So,
It's no,
right, we
no
have a
fires just
wildfire, which I think would be an act of God, versus somebody, their turkey fryer blew up and the house burned down.
right. Well, and you are right. I mean, there really isn't any difference in fire as far as insurance companies are concerned. However, this is going to be what they call a catastrophe. So when they go to file that claim with the insurance company is going to look and see, oh, Matthew Parsons didn't just simply forget the thing on the stove, and that's what burned his house down. That what in fact happened was there was a catastrophe region wide that wiped out all these houses, and so you're not going to be in that way. The insurance companies do look at you differently, but you're not going to be looked at differently because of in this situation out in California. So because it
So,
wasn't clearly your fault, there wasn't anything you could do about this.
right. So if I don't clean out my dryer vents, it catches on fire, the house goes up. In that circumstance, I'm going to see a raise in my policy in terms of my rates and things like that. Is that pretty fair?
Oh yeah, pretty fair. And
Yeah.
there's also a good chance anymore because the homeowner companies they have been taking a bloodbath for the last few years, and so they're getting a lot more particular about who they write and that kind of thing. I could see an insurance company just saying not only would you get a raise, they would just say, "We'll see you later. We don't need your
Mhm.
business."
Okay.
If you're going to be that kind of customer that you weren't careful, as opposed to these wildfires where you had nothing to do with it. They're going to look at those two people differently.